Hey, everybody. I am glad you're here listening in. I have a special guest with me today, Daniel Winkler, who is hailing from the Pacific Northwest. He's a mushroom expert and a renowned expert on cordyceps. So I was wondering, his cordyceps research has been even featured in the National Geographic and the New York Times. So he must really know something about cordyceps. And I'm guessing many of you watching may not know even what cordyceps is. So Daniel, why don't we just start right there? Can you explain to most of us who don't really understand that?
So Cordyceps is a really interesting fungus. It infects insects, and these insects then are the reservoir of nutrients for the fungus, and out of the body of the insects will grow a mushroom or a fruiting body. And traditionally as medicine, the insect that once the fruiting body grows out of the insect body is filled with mycelium. And then the insect body filled with mycelium and the fruiting body together make traditionally the medicine. Of course, through cultivation, some things have changed, that there's a whole range of cordyceps on the market that does not produce a fruiting body. And there's a variety of species that are out there. So popular media or pop culture got all excited about zombie ants and the Himalayan Viagra, where the focus is only on supposedly libido enhancing qualities. But you know, some of the most from a naturalist perspective, just that there's a fungus that completely digests an insect and then grows a mushroom out of that is a really strange thing, and really beautiful if you can handle a little bit of the macabre, because I mean it looks very strange. And of course people think, can that happen to us? Can my body, can a fruiting body that grows out of me that might be as big as my leg or even bigger and be colorful and pimply and so on? No, it can't happen, luckily.
Except maybe my son's ears, right? Checking your ears. So it's a little beautiful, but a little creepy too.
Exactly. And the beautiful, not everybody can see the beauty in there, how things go, but it is definitely fascinating. And many of them are actually also very colorful.
So why is cordyceps so valued as medicine?
So it has quite a long history in East Asia, and mostly started out in Chinese culture. And they started out, I mean, it's surely documented something like the 4th or 5th century, where they were using cordyceps growing out of cicadas. And some early emperor talked about how that got him back to health. There is the story that the understanding in traditional Chinese medicine that when your system is really weak and you've been sick for a long time, that taking cordyceps will get your system regenerated. So while there's a lot of medicines that could release some energy for a short time and give you the feeling of health, the long term is a whole different story. And when your system has been worn out through extended disease, then cordyceps actually is supposed to give you energy and build you back up. And so that was part of the traditional perception, that it's really helpful. And actually the first Western person who got cordyceps prescribed, and at that point it wasn't the cicada cordyceps anymore, it was the Tibetan Yartsa gumbo, Ophiocordyceps sinensis, the Chinese imported from the Tibetan highlands in the 17th century. That Jesuit, he was really worn down, sick in Beijing, and he got that, and he felt much better after the treatment. And he was the first one to write about that in the Western world. And I think in the 19th century, people, when naturalism and science and got popular, with educated circles, people were actually trading some cordyceps insects with a fruiting body that was collected like in the Caribbean or so. And I mean, just to see an insect and then there grows something else out of it, that was something for the, what is that called? You put in your collection in your vitrines and you share that with friends, and people paid quite some money for these early specimens that were especially collected in the Caribbean.
So it's kind of making me think a little bit about ginseng. Like, would it be sort of equivalent or interchangeable, or perhaps even more effective than ginseng?
It is classified in traditional Chinese medicine as a tonic, and also in Tibetan medicine. And when we talk about Ophiocordyceps sinensis, this comes out of Tibetan medicine. So the Chinese, when they got into cordyceps, were not aware of the Tibetan cordyceps, and that took them. That was much later. The first records are in the 16th or 17th century. And actually, the Chinese name of Dongxiong Xia Cao is a translation of the Tibetan Yartsagumbu, the summer warm winter grass. So now I forgot your question.
Ginseng. We're talking about like
ginseng. Yes. So it's a tonic, and but I don't know enough about ginseng to really make a distinction between the two. We could say the price really tells us that cordyceps is much higher regarded than ginseng, but ginseng can be cultivated, and cordyceps cultivation has only started in recent decades, and the Tibetan Yartsagumbu has only been now cultivated successfully on grand scale in the last years. And we don't know much about that yet. And interestingly, what you can buy in the Western world, which is labeled, if you buy Ophiocordyceps sinensis, sorry, you got, how shall we put that nicely? You did not purchase that species. That is mislabeled. Swindled. You bought an organism, a fungal organism that is closely related, and that it's part of the ecosystem of Ophiocordyceps sinensis, but it is not the same species. It is not the same genus. And but of course, if you buy Cordyceps militaris, that can be produced. The label is often correct, and but there is no long medical history of Cordyceps militaris. That has been only been used maybe in the last 30 years or so. So the Chinese looked for a cheap substitute. And then they got into the Cordyceps militaris thing. And yes, there's a lot of things you can get out of Cordyceps militaris without paying the crazy prices you would pay for the Tibetan Ophiocordyceps sinensis.
So you will be a guest speaker at Christopher Hobbs' upcoming medicinal mushroom program, and you're going to be talking about cordyceps.
Oh, am I? Yes. Yes.
So I was wondering if you could give us like 3 takeaways that you're going to go do a deeper dive in the actual program.
So I will give a little bit background of the history of Ophiocordyceps sinensis in East Asia, because it was just Tibet and China where they used it. I'm also very fascinated by cordyceps as a life form, and also share some other cordyceps that grow elsewhere in the world. And then I will go also in some of the uses. And but I should say I'm not a naturopathic doctor or so. I did not come to cordyceps as a doctor or a healer, but as a ethnomycologist working on mushrooms in Tibet and mushroom markets. So that's how I got introduced to Yartsagumbu in 1997, and then studied it and followed up and tried to offer a synopsis of the whole thing as a phenomenon in Tibet as an economy. There's no other place in the world where the people live of one fungus like that completely restructured the local economy. And then, so that was one part of my research. And then the traditional stuff, as I said before, and then of course, being a Western person, believing in science, I also looked into scientific research. In the beginning, I was just like, there was too many claims of the medicinal power of Cordyceps, and I was quite put off by this panacea thing, what it all can do. But, following research, it's incredible what has been proven so far, what kind of research is out there that supports a lot of the traditional claims. But unfortunately, we still have to say we are definitely short in double-blind clinical studies, the whole thing of what Western medicine believes in. And so it's a very interesting subject. It has many, many aspects, and and there's still yes, for science fundamentalists, we still don't have all the data that would say, yes, Cordyceps saves the world. But I don't try to cater to fundamentalists, so that's all right.
Well, as a health practitioner with a clinic that I work in myself, I've been curious about Cordyceps. So I'm really looking forward to broadening my understanding when you give the presentation in the program. So thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah, thank you for this little chat. It's great to meet you, Daniel.
And I hope I'm looking a little sharper than I do here on my own image, but I guess that won't work. And I'll make sure when I give my talk. But
you look sharper than an insect covered with Cordyceps.
Oh, that is so comforting. Okay. Okay. Well,
right,
thank you so much. And I'm really excited about the program you guys put together. Medicinal mushrooms need much more attention, and also the aspect that we can make the medicines ourselves, that we can work with it ourselves. I just love it about it, and the fact that it's been around for centuries and millennia, and we have so little reports on bad side effects, and so I really loved it about medicinal mushrooms, and I think we really have to spread the knowledge and help people to find it and work with it.
Yeah, I am so excited. I have to admit, I'm pretty proud of this program. So I'm really excited to dive in as a student.
Okay, well, thank you so much, and all the best. And I think I'm all